our main purpose of being established is set out in the Small Business Commission Act, and that is to enhance a competitive and fair operating environment for small business in Victoria. It's like the rest of that piece of legislation, it's very broadly drafted, very generously drafted, and I'm grateful to the Parliament for that, because it's allowed me to really push the boundaries. The whole way in which we've operated is not to be concerned with technicalities. We look at the substance of matters. We don't look at a complaint when it comes into our office and say, oh, does this fit one of our pieces of legislation? No, what we do is we say, can we sort this out for the businesses concerned? And let's get on with getting an outcome for the people so they can get on and do their business. Our main functions relate to fair treatment in the marketplace, promoting informed decision making. That's an extremely important function. And also receiving and investigating complaints about unfair market practices. Now, I'll just talk a little bit about the informed decision making first, because the way in which we can operate successfully is if we don't have to resolve disputes. And the way you can avoid getting into a dispute is knowing what you're doing. And I was mentioning to some people before we came in about, I go right around Victoria variously talking to businesses, and I often get asked by the journalists, what are the major issues facing small business? And I say there's two major ones which keep jumping out at me. One, which all businesses seem to agree with me on, the other they look vacantly at me, is to say, what do you know? The one that they all agree about is cash flow problems. And that's a perennial problem for small business, and it probably will be for a long time. But if businesses can educate themselves better and inform themselves better, they can reduce the problems of cash flow. The other problem, the issue, the one that small businesses just don't seem to have believe where I'm coming from, I say, is lack of management skills. That businesses don't know how to manage their business. They know their product, and they're enthusiastic about it. They've got all the energy in the world about what it is that their core business might be, but they don't know how to manage. They've got a skills deficiency. And we just keep saying to business people, look, you can't be a marketer, an accountant, a lawyer, all in the one package. You've got to get advice. You've got to have someone else helping you with these aspects of running your business. It doesn't matter how good your product is or your business idea is, it'll fail if you don't know how to manage it properly. So pay to get some advice. You know, you might have put your house on the line, which is going to have implications not only for you but for wider groups, your family. So why not pay a few $1,000s to get good advice from a lawyer or from an accountant or a business advisor? And if you're going to get that advice, we say to them, don't just go and get it as though it's a procedural thing, something you've got to do, a red tape thing. So don't go, for example, into a lawyer and say, is it okay for me to sign this contract? So many businesses go in that way. They're petrified about the billable hour running against them, that if they can get in and out really quickly, it'll save them money. That's what they think. And all they're interested in is having the lawyer say to them, yes, it's okay to sign that contract, that supply contract, or it's okay to sign that lease. Don't go with that attitude. Go with an attitude of finding out more about it, because every contract, every lease, every legal instrument is dynamic in nature. It keeps bringing up things you've got to do. It keeps bringing up things that the other party you're in contract has got to do. It's not something which you sign and take home and put in your bottom drawer and say that's the red tape done with. So our suggestion is, and this is the second practical suggestion of the day, and probably my last one, because I get exhausted with ideas with practical things, is that we say to the business people, okay, you're going to see your lawyer or other business advisor about a contract or a lease. Say to them, look, you're prepared to pay for, say, an extra half hour of time, but what you want them to do is to take you through, let's say, the contract, and take 2 highlighter pens with you and ask the lawyer to mark in, say, green highlighter pen, all the things that you've got to do under the contract, and then get it, and to explain as you're doing it. Explain it to me as you're doing it. And then ask the lawyer to mark in orange, see, orange and the green, there's some significance to that, I suppose, to mark in orange text to colour all of the things that the other party has to do, and explain to me as you go. Very practical. You come away with a colour-coded document which is easily referable to. We've found this to be, almost by chance, a thing which we suggested as a practical point. but we've found it to be very well received. I've had lawyers and accountants sort of say to me when they've heard me talk about that. So that's why that guy came to see me with the 2 highlighter pens. If you do come to our office, you'll be above the 6,200 number of people we've had in the 6.5 years we've been going. It's increasing all the time, about 20% increase most years. We've dealt with matters that have in total been worth over $200 million. Our success rate for mediations is around 80%. Now, the importance of mediations against other ways of doing things, before mediation was sort of invented, any disputes were always resolved through traditional court processes. And if you've ever been involved in any litigation, you know that court actions take a long time. They're very expensive, they're very uncertain, and they're emotionally very stressful. And it's the last thing you really want to do. Mediation of commercial disputes, which is what we're about. In our system, we generally have the matter on for mediation within about 8 weeks of a matter coming to us. We'll have tried to resolve it beforehand with people like David Hildebrand, who's my deputy, who's here today. We'll have tried to work with the parties to see if he could resolve the matter before it gets to formal mediation. And in fact, in 30% of matters we deal with, we resolve them beforehand. And part of the reason we resolve them beforehand is that when we get a complaint, we take the matter up with the chief executive of the business or government organisation which is complained about. And almost invariably it's the first that the CEO has heard of the matter. The bigger the organisation, the more likely it is that they've never heard of it until they get a letter from me saying, look, we've got this complaint about you. We're just making preliminary inquiries about it at the moment. Can you help me sort out what I should do? Incidentally, these are all my powers. I can investigate you. I can make representations of the ACCC and they can take you through the court systems, prosecute you. Can you help me decide what I ought to do? And often that letter's sufficient to get the thing resolved. The CEO sees it and says, well, what's all this about? And quite typically, a matter might have grown into a dispute because someone lower down in the chain, say a middle manager or whatever, has operated in a way which isn't the way in which the particular organisation would want to have it operated. Now, when we saw that was happening, we took the view that a lot of disputes could have been avoided if people had behaved better. And we actually got a study done about business behaviours. There's a sheet on the chairs there about which sort of summarise a bit about what our study was about, and I'll talk a little bit about it just before I finish if I've got time. The other beauty, of course, about not going to court and going to things like mediation is if you go to court, it's costly, of course. And if you lose, the chances are you'll pay the costs of the other party. So you get a double whammy, you're a double loser. Because the court will say, yeah, you're right, you're wrong. And, loser, you're going to pay his costs as well. So this can be some pretty horrible outcomes there. Whereas at mediation, you're actually in control of the outcome. You've got a control of the outcome because you can agree with the other party what the outcome's going to be. And it's a unique opportunity at mediation to do that. You've got this dispute, you can put to one side about who's right and who's wrong. What you can decide is, well, on a commercial basis, look, I want to still do business with this guy. How can I come to a commercial arrangement where I can do that? Let's not worry about who was right or was wrong. Let's see if we can get a middle ground. We're in control of the outcome. Let's do that. If you don't get an outcome when you're in control and the matter then goes off to court, you've got someone else making the decision. You've lost control of the outcome.